So for a lot of people, new beginnings are like, it's like spring coming. You know, you've got everything is new and hopeful, and that's not where my mind went. So I'm kind of glad that I'm going first, so that it's not like, oh, that was a downer. Um, but here's what I've got. For some context, 10 years ago, this coming December, my son passed away. He was 10 weeks old. For those of you who don't know, his name was Bram. And the new beginning that started is where my mind immediately went. So new beginnings aren't always positive. Sometimes they come from trauma. My son's death instigated a new beginning for me, what I learned to call the new normal. When you lose a child, you lose a kind of innocence about the world. You aren't offered the choice between the red pill and the blue pill. You just wake up in a vat of slime. It's astonishing how much mucus a one person can generate in grief. And this is really true. I just couldn't believe that my body just kept producing and producing more snot. But to see the machine behind the lies of safety and comfort, and how they manipulate you, and how much you want that veil pulled back over your eyes. But here you are, and you can't unknow what's been revealed to you. We aren't evolved to be completely aware of how dangerous and fragile life is all the time. We would lose our minds, lose the ability to function, overwhelmed by the minutiae and the utter indifference of the universe. I was stunned that the universe didn't stop when Bram died, that all life didn't immediately halt. But that's what life does, it goes on. And the choice what I was given was whether or not I would go on with it. It helped a lot to have Matt and my family and friends, including MSUS, very much so. My pets, and especially Olivia, I ultimately couldn't bear to do that to her. In a way, the universe did stop because my life was never the same again. I'm not the same person. We're not the same family. And I've had many new beginnings since then, most notably our decision to have another child, who is sitting right next to me playing Minecraft. And Fern, as Matt has said, is such a comfort. Our family can never be whole the way we want it to be, but we can, of course, carry Bram with us. And I guess that's really my new beginnings story, that the newness of any beginning has a complexity built into it, woven out of what I've already experienced. Beginnings are like the universe that didn't stop. They are something that simply keeps going, with or without me. A new beginning isn't a blank slate, emptiness without context. A new beginning is having a veil lifted, whether or not we want it to be, and regardless of whether we knew it was there in the first place, to a different mindset, a different perspective, a different way of being in the world. And even if you aren't given a choice about whether or not the new beginning happens, sometimes you get to choose how you respond, even if that takes the rest of your life to figure that out. I guess, so that it took me a while to puzzle out where I wanted to go with that idea of new beginnings caused by trauma, new beginnings that we don't want or aren't expecting, and they aren't welcome. But it really felt like something that everybody could understand and identify with. And it just seemed like this is what I had to say. So since Bram died, his death has really been such a core part of my life and what I do and how I feel, that it's hard to separate myself from that event, which is unfortunate in some ways, but here I am. And I don't know, I like to call myself either an optimist or a masochist because I get out of bed every day. So it's really weird that I keep going, and that people keep going after huge tragedies or in pain every day, and that we really do take all of that with us, even when we feel like we're starting something new. So So I'm glad I went first because it's a much more serious tone than I don't know what tone y'all were looking for, but that's just where my head went. So that's my story. I'm trying to sometimes it's every day I make that decision, and sometimes it's not even a decision. I'm just fine with it. But that's me, or this aspect of me, I should clarify.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was
Thanks.
beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I can dig it.
Love you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Love you too.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah.
We'll know that feeling of the world and life going on. How could they?
Yeah.
Yeah, how could they? How could
Right.
they?
It seems so relevant too with the elections and how stressed everybody is and the pandemic. It just, we're being forced into new beginnings and refiguring out life.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
That's very poignant.
Our next story of renewal this evening comes from Beth Strootman. Beth, I'm going to mute everybody else and then go ahead and unmute yourself.
I've
Need you to unmute yourself now, Beth.
got to turn a light on here so I can see my story. This is a story about the kind of daily renewal that was the heart and vigor necessary to raise a crop of kids on the farm of my childhood, circa 1950s. No, it wasn't the splendid sunrise that heralded each new day. It was the slap of that old wooden screen door as my dad would stride out into the dim early morning and into the weight and worry of his day. The memory of that, his ability to summon daily that fortitude, that constancy of purpose, is more than a memory from my childhood on the farm. It lives now in the fiber of my being, having been inspired and instilled so long ago in that remarkable place. That place was necessarily devoted to and driven by the ever certain rhythm of the seasons. The ascending renewal that followed that icy cold of winter, when on that first day your breath caught that marvelous musky scent of the ever-living earth waking. It was confidence in the promise of seeds and of the land, along with a studied certainty in the latest science that were the fundamentals at the heart of my father's farming. That and the certainty of long days of hard work and sweat, wherever our understanding and expectation. With supplications for rain, or longing for sun, and often fear of the worst with storms. We made it through many years when that heavy worry over weather or markets shook the calm, but never the resolve. And along the way, we all learned of that quiet pride held in the stewardship of our land. And every year, scared of storm damage, we saw that stewardship rewarded with the inevitability of crops that grew taller than we would ever be. Now, respectful tending of the land must of course include mention a huge and sturdy garden that planted and nurtured by my mom and tended by many little hands. Bearing the keen heritage of generations, it was always laden and spilling over with a many-textured array of abundance, complete the cycle of nurturance and renewal. Now, while we're in the garden, I have a little micro story. Are you still with me back there in that late, hot afternoon sun on the newly turned earth with a gangly bunch of sisters weeding or picking beans or tomatoes, whatever was in season, while our mom maneuvered that bucking bronco of a tiller down the rows until she paused, exhaled a deep sigh, and said, "Beth, better get supper started." Now, as the second oldest sister in a family of 10 kids, I had been taught and learned well, when quite young, the cooking of meals. And that which was the underlying importance of it all, doing your part and serving others. So it was with the greatest feeling of pride and confidence that I walked to that empty house on those days to make on my own a meal for my whole family. She knew, they all knew, and I knew that I could do it. So that brings us to the crop that surely was the dearest renewal of all. And that, of course, was the dusty tumble of suntan kids, sprouting and growing like seedlings, an unsurprisingly varied assortment of 10. And there was no doubt that the flourishing of each of these was the utmost important reason for it all. Yes, through the years of daily challenges, of knowing both joy and woe, making lives by growing things, well, that was precious, tireless work of hand and heart, with splendid exhaustion at day's end, when that old sun would set and the soft songs of nightlife mingled with the sounds of our slumbering. Grateful sighs for the day that was.
Big sigh, big sigh. Wow, Beth.
Wow.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Beth.
Oh,
really painted a picture.
Yeah.
I could see in your eyes you seeing that spot, you and your sisters in the garden. It was compelling. So thank you.
Really was.
How many kids between you and your older sister? How many boys?
Well, we had 3 girls, then 4 boys, and then 3 girls. And my sister that's older than me was 2 years older.
Okay. My mom was one of 10 as well.
Ah,
Wow.
Oldest girl, 4 boys. No, that's not right. 3 boys, then my mom, and then I get mixed up on how many of the rest. But they had 5 and 5.
Mm.
How old were you when you started making dinner?
oh, I wish I could remember. I made did so many cooking type things before I, even made meals. And
Little.
and peeling potatoes a long time.
For 10 people, yes.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, Beth.
My pleasure.
Our next story this evening comes from Lynne. Lynne, you've probably heard the routine. I will mute everybody and then you'll need to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks to Andrea and Beth. Beth, that was poetry. And Andrea, your story just touched my heart. Our renewal story is also about a child, but we were luckier. Our only child, Meredith Christine, was born in 1982. But when she was 12 years old, she became seriously mentally ill. It started that fall of '94 with obsessive compulsive disorder, although the OCD would not be diagnosed for another year. By spring, Meredith had developed severe anorexia, and that began the most terrifying 3 years of our family's life. Luckily, the anorexia was diagnosed and treatment was started immediately, but nothing the doctors did seemed to make any difference. And Peter and I were watching our daughter literally waste away. It was horrible. Mary was admitted to Methodist Hospital's eating disorder unit, which is now known as the Emily program, in June of 1995. She was down to a skeletal 83 pounds, and the admitting nurse could not find a blood pressure. That night, Peter returned home to care for pets and call family. I stayed in the hospital next to Mary's bed, in one of the big rocking chairs that sat in every room. I didn't sleep that night. I watched her every breath and prayed that she would keep breathing. Meredith spent the next 3 years in and out of Camp EDU, which is what the patients named it. She would refeed. Refeeding is a very painful process where patients consume a closely monitored 5,000 calorie diet while their bodies slowly readjust to processing food again. Then she would go into an outpatient program for some weeks and then try to maintain with support from therapists and dietitians. She would fall back into the disease, be hospitalized, and the whole cycle would start again. And Mary never cried, not once, not through all the physical and emotional pain, not from the fear and the anger, not when she was snatched away from family, school, and friends and sent back to the EDU. She locked it all inside and she kept it there. Peter and I supported her in every way we could. We were in family therapy and got to know the other patients and the families of Camp EDU. Peter helped to start an eating disorder information and support group, the Alliance to Fight Eating Disorders, AFED, and created their website. We didn't fully realize until later in the process that anorexia is one of the most deadly of all mental illnesses. Thousands of people, mostly but not exclusively, girls and young women, die from it every year. Some of the patients in Camp EDU that we got to know would not recover. I'm glad I didn't know that the first night when I sat beside Mary and watched her breathe. Meredith's last hospitalization was in 1998 when she was 15, although we did not know that it would be the last. In fact, that spring had been particularly bad for her. Peter and I were both exhausted and discouraged and afraid that she would not survive this in spite of all that we and her medical team, and most importantly, Meredith, could do. Peter was working that spring evening. Mary was back at Methodist Hospital, and I was home alone when the phone rang. It was Mary, and she was crying. I could hardly understand what she was saying, but I just said, "Hang on, honey, I'll be right there." I jumped in the car and headed for Methodist. I don't even remember the drive or running from the parking lot. I just remember hurrying down the EDU hallway and into her room. I sat in the big rocking chair and held her for a long time as she sobbed. And I knew in that moment that Mary would get well. And she did. Yes, there were some rough spots the next few years, but Mary was never hospitalized again. We saw her defeat the last remnants of anorexia the summer after she graduated from UW-Madison. Meredith had spent her junior year in England at the University of Warwick, where she started dating a German physics student who was there to study computer science. Meredith came back from England with one goal: to study in Germany after she graduated from Madison. Mary finished her senior year with a Fulbright Fellowship to Germany to study chemical ecology, specifically to the Max Planck Institute in Jena, the same city where Alex was getting his degree. This was not a coincidence. As Meredith prepared to leave for Germany that summer, her doctor told her that she was 20 pounds underweight. The doctor would not sign the necessary health certificate until Mary's weight was normal. Meredith never hesitated. She started eating every high-calorie food in sight. She left for Germany in August looking great. Peter and I rejoiced because that would have been impossible in the anorexia years. We knew that Mary had finally genuinely recovered. Meredith now is a professor of molecular ecology at the University of Zurich. She has lived, studied, and worked in Europe for 15 years. She and Alex have a 19-month-old daughter, Sophie, who reminds us so much of her mother at that age. Sometimes when I see Mary and Sophie together, I remember the night that Mary cried and let anorexia go. And I am so grateful.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
Oh,
Thank you.
that was so touching. And
We're over here in tears, so thanks, Lynn.
So, so deep, so deep, so deep.
Wow.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn. My granddaughter's back in treatment, so I really appreciate your words tonight.
Oh,
Yes, Marcia, she can get well. I know it. I saw it.
My son Alex was at that clinic as well.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Thanks, Lynn. I know you wanted to make me cry the entire time that you were talking.
I didn't know if I could get through that without breaking down myself.
wow.
So
You did beautifully.
not showing me you were crying, Marie, that would have been the last touch.
that may be an advantage of doing these things over Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
Thank
you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter and Lynn, for sharing the story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have to go blow my nose.
Mute yourself. Oh.
I am hunting down our last, she is, our last storyteller this evening. Janice? Janice, you know the routine. Let me get everybody muted. Go ahead and unmute.
I am unmuted, I hope.
You are.
Lynn, that is just so powerful. And Andrea and Beth as well. And you're all tough acts to follow. So I'm going to try something new to see if I can do this, which for me is my own personal demons at times. I've been thinking a lot about rain lately, mostly because there has been a lot of it. Normally, when I think about rain, it's in the spring when the snow melts and April showers are bringing May flowers. In the spring, the rain is a sign of hope, growth, and renewal, with the sunshine of summer just around the corner. I don't always think of the fall rain as a time of renewal. This year was different. Because there's been so much rain, and I am spending so much time away from the in-person hugs and smiles of friends, I knew I needed to find a way to embrace the rain and bring back that sense of spring hope and renewal. When I was growing up in Iowa, most of the rainstorms were very windy. Rarely were they gentle and misty. When we moved to Cincinnati during the mid-1980s, I discovered gentle rains. I remember the first time we were out and about and the rain started to pour down unexpectedly. We raced home to shut the windows, and we expected everything to be soaked like it would have been in Iowa. That driving rain that just comes through the windows and it soaks about halfway into the room. When we got home, big surprise. No water had come into the windows. The windowsills all around the house were dry. The rain was coming straight down. I had never seen a rain that came straight down. It was a heavy rain, yet at the same time it was gentle. There was no wind blowing the rain into the house. For the first time in my life, I was able to sit with an open window and just listen to the rainfall. I could practically hear the grass and plants grow. I had a sense of absolute joy, wonder, peace, and renewal. I always enjoyed those Cincinnati rains. The rains of Minnesota are just not the same. Water is one way to wash away your tears and fears. I was married in the early fall, and Jerry's birthday was in mid-September. So I always feel a sense of loss when the new school year begins. There are numerous songs about crying in the rain or blue eyes crying in the rain. I can relate to those. Rain, especially in the fall, is like a sad song or a sad movie. Winter is just around the corner, and I'm not looking forward to it. I don't like winters. However, a fall rain gives you the chance to cry and get out all those negative feelings and emotions. Crying is a great release for any fears I have. Crying on a sunny day just seems wrong somehow. Once the crying is over, I always feel a lot better. My eyes might be red and my nose might be stuffed up, but my mind is much clearer. I feel like I can cope and start to think about solutions. Renewal. Rain is not just about the sad things, however. Hope is part of renewal. Hope for beautiful flowers, hope for an abundant fall harvest, hope for a new day filled with fresh plans and fresh air. Many songs talk about the joys of rain, the classic Singing in the Rain, Walking in the Rain, and I Love a Rainy Night. If you can find someone who likes to walk or dance in the rain with you, that's even better. Rain can wash away the heaviness of humidity, and a feeling of fresh energy is in the air. Rain and rainbows give way to sunshine and possibilities. The world feels new again. Hope and renewal. Eddie Rabbit sang about his love for rainy nights in 1975. My friend Purple is here to share her joy of rain and renewal. Whoops, she lost one of her boots. So, well, I love a rainy night. I love a rainy night. I love to hear the thunder, watch the lightning when it lights up the sky. And you know, it makes me feel good. Well, I love a rainy night. It's such a beautiful sight. I love to feel the rain on my face, taste the rain on my lips in the moonlight shadows. Showers wash all my cares away. I wake up to a sunny day because I love a rainy night. Yeah, I love a rainy night. Well, I love a rainy night. I love a rainy night. I love to hear the thunder, watch the lightning when it lights up the sky. You know, it makes me feel good. Well, I love a rainy night. It's such a beautiful sight. I love to feel the rain on my face, taste the rain on my lips in the moonlight shadows. Puts a song in this heart of mine, puts a smile on my face every time, because I love a rainy night. Yeah, I love a rainy night. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
you, Janice.
Thank you, Purple.
Thank you, Purple.
Yeah.
Thank you, Purple. Purple
Yeah.
did very well.
Thank you, Purple. Purple's got
Cute raincoat.
Purple's got an incredible wardrobe.
Purple fan club.
Yeah.
Sewing these, Janice, or where do they come from?
Build-A-Bear. And then some of them I've made myself.
Okay.
Like
Wow.
the bikini.
That is so cute.
Yes.
I love the ears sticking out of the
Yeah.
Beautiful description.
Take a bow, Purple.
Janice?
Hey, Purple.
Janice, when is Jerry's birthday?
Pardon? Jerry's birthday
Birthday.
is going to be this coming Thursday, the 17th. He would have been 70.
No, we'll be thinking about him.
Thank you.
And you, our friend. Well, that brings this evening's stories to a close. I want to thank all four of our storytellers for sharing.
Thank you.
Wow.
And just carry these stories with you for the next days and weeks and, well, let's say month when it's your turn to share.
And
Second
next,
Saturday next month.
deep listening. Deep listening is next month's top.
Deep listening is the topic.
Oh. Okay.
Reach out to me or Reverend Laura and let us know if you have a story on that topic to share. We look forward to hearing from, I hope, everyone in the congregation over the course of this year. Thank you all for taking the time to listen And we will see you all, or many of you at least, tomorrow morning. 10:30 tomorrow, not 10 o'clock.
10:30.
Thank you.
Get to sleep in.
Okay,
All right.
thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Dad.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Laura.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good to see everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Yeah, don't forget to stop the recording.
Thank you.
I don't know
Hi,
what
Lori.
happens if it doesn't get stopped.
Sound
Hi,
check.
Lori.